That's the very first thing, and then we can sort of have a dialogue of how do we deal with, correcting the backlog of the people there, who we can, we need people in various occupations and so on, perhaps, but we have laws. It's supposed to be a nation of laws, and that's a pretty primary one. And unfortunately, a lot of these folks that are coming in here don't only disobey that law, they disobey a whole lot of other laws.
Thank you. Mr. Hershey?
Again, I believe that the federal government has a responsibility to protect the borders and is failing at doing that, and the state has every right and obligation to protect its own borders. I thoroughly agree with the governor of Arizona and her plan to protect her borders and protect her citizens from the illegal immigrants, and I would support any type of legislation in Maryland that references that as well.
Thank you. Dr. Smeagol, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you. I reject the question's premise that to follow the law is coming down on anyone. We have an obligation to follow the law. We don't get to choose what laws we follow. And Arizona has done nothing except mimic the federal law and the obligations that are in the federal law to make sure that people who come to this country come here legally. And so I believe, yes, and I will support in Maryland legislation to make sure that we are not a state that says come here and you can flaunt the federal laws and you can flaunt the laws, and that we will give you things that you are not otherwise entitled to. Lots of people stand in line and try to get into this country through the proper channels. Why should those who are working through the proper channels to get here be given less opportunity than those who are breaking the law? And I think it's clear, follow the law, come to the country, and we'll help you. Get here and make it simple so that people can get here. But no, we do not let people who come here illegally get away with that, and we do not grant them amnesty for breaking the law and coming here. And we need to protect our national heritage, our history, and I don't believe that allowing an occupation of southwestern United States through people coming here illegally until the population numbers have changed is a good thing for this country. Thank you.
The question of immigration is, to me, is pretty simple. It's either legal or illegal. And, if it wasn't for immigration, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Certainly, many generations ago, we came here from Germany, and here I am. So, I'm certainly for good of immigration is illegal. And I agree with Stephen that it's one of the major roles of government is public safety. I think Arizona is really hip issues that are much different than what we see here at Maryland. Just like the issues in the county differ. In the 30th district, each one has a little issue that's a little bit different than the other. But the facts that you hear of murder and a law that is some of the things that happen that are public safety issues. We need to address that and not allow that to happen here in Maryland.
Thank you. Senator Pipkin.
Well, I've seen from a different perspective what can happen in the state of Maryland when we decide that we want to have an open border policy. We were one of the last states in the country to comply with the Federal Real ID Act, which simply requires that when somebody gets a license, they have to show identification that they are indeed a citizen. We were one of the 4 last states to comply with that. We were the only state located on the East Coast, and thousands of people came here from New Jersey and other places and lined up and paid people for documentation and other things, and took their Maryland license and in turn went back to New Jersey and other places and got a legal license. And those people did not go through a screening. They were not legal immigrants, and yet because Maryland had an open border policy, thousands of licenses went into the hands of people that shouldn't have got it. So while Arizona may seem a far place away, the idea that Maryland in the past and today generally has a very open policy relative to illegal immigrants, I think it makes us very uncomfortable. Remember that in 9/11, one of those people that flew the planes into the buildings had a Maryland license issued and shouldn't have had it. So the flip side is I believe that when we look at this issue, it's not just a Southwest issue, it's not just a border states issue, it's also a Maryland issue, and I would be supportive of the Arizona bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from the audience? Okay.
I'd like to address this question first to Mr. Jacobs. You talked a little bit, I think during your introduction, about private sector jobs. And since jobs are the top 3 issues that we're all talking about, I'd like to hear more about your ideas on getting more jobs and supporting more small businesses to come to this area.
And I should be directing this to Mr. Jacobs if you want to go to the right hand.
Please.
Okay. Mr. Jacobs, please.
Jobs, I'm sure, are difficult. And, you know, as we fought this issue in the Upper Shore Club, Chestertown, and 94 jobs there, we equate that to basically 900 on the West Shore. And in trying to create jobs, it's about what it's like when you go to jobs here. One of the things that we're faced with, and personally, you know, I have quadrupled unemployment insurance. When I say that everybody with no things ever now, I quadruple amount tax or fee for that. My workman's comp is up. Every tax that I pay, every fee that I pay to be in a legitimate business has gone through the roof, and it's made it very difficult for small business. And this state has got to take a look at what it can do to partner up with small business and not regulate them out of business. The regulators become the sheriffs in this state, in this Eastern Shore, and they have to become our partners. To grow these jobs, we need help. They need to listen to the small business people and figure out what we can do to create a whole new set of jobs, a whole new set of entrepreneurs, rather than make them get out of business and go to another state. Because that's what we've done this year. 3,000 left this state. And, we've got to create a whole new network of means for small business to make it and not be regulated out.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Further, and clearly October 4th opening of the Emergency Center will help spawn a number of businesses. We believe that there'll be a commitment there to, again, build an office park that will indeed include more doctors and specialty care. And you have to look at the vision of Shore Health over the next 20 to 25 years, where their goal is to build a hub and spoke system throughout the Upper Shore that allows you to get the health care that you desire without having to leave here to either go to Washington or Baltimore. Think about the number of jobs that will create with each doctor's office, each specialist that moves here with their support staff, with the specialized laboratory services and other things. And we have an opportunity to do that. So that's concrete, it's real, with the emergence of a hub in what currently is in Easton, the Emergency Center in Cands, a number of outreach in Caroline County related to general practices, because clearly we still have a situation where the overall area is underserved by general practitioners. We moved through Chestertown, and the acquisition and capital investment that the University of Maryland system has made there, and ongoing discussions as to what happens in Cecil County as well relative to health care. So I think that's really from a small business perspective where we have an opportunity to do that. But overall, let's just look at it this way, and we try to explain this in the legislature. When we meet in Annapolis, people get the vision that the state of this island, yet out of only 4 subdivisions, none of them are more than 40 miles away from another state. And think about how people get lives in this area. They may live in the business district, they may work in Wilmington or Newark or Philadelphia, and they shop in Delaware. So, this is truly like the state and our first
I think it was the last session. We had a new secretary of the Department of Business Economic Development for the Shore delegation, and I guess we state innovation is working at supposedly Department of Business and Economic Development supposed to be helping encourage business. When we get bills, when we get departments coming in with legislation, we had a bill in my committee last year that the past 500 watermen would have been out of work. Okay, not a peep from deep end. Not a word out of them saying, hey, this is a bad bill, we shouldn't be passing it because it's going to hurt business. The governor had a roundtable thing that went around the state. It was down in Cambridge last year, and I dropped in. I got there a little late, so I wasn't going to ask any questions. But the Deputy Secretary of these business people, a number of them there, what can we do to help small business? And almost they said, we can cut our taxes and make some of these regulations. And his response was, well, you know, we need those taxes so we can create those programs to help you. And I blew up. I said, wait a minute. I said, if you didn't take the money, they could create their own help. They could create their own incentives. They can hire people. It's sometimes one of the government is deliberately trying to make me holding, so we have to go to them in order to get something done.